Hello. Hello, Aaliya's family. Yes. Um, my name's Nadia. I'm a writer who moved back to Lebanon in 2011 because I was searching for a home, and I found my home here in Aaliya's. It was more than 10 years ago when this was still Oliver's, and Aaliya's was just a few racks in the back. And I thought I had discovered it, and I loved it so much. And when it changed from Oliver's with Aaliya's in the back to all Aaliya's, I was so happy, and I was here all the time. More than 10 years ago is when I met Niamh and when I met William. And that journey seems long, but it also seems very, very short. I have so many stories here. Let's see, the first protests in 2015, I would come to Aaliya's before I'd go down to the streets, and then I would come back to Aaliya's when I needed to refresh and go back down to the streets. I opened a little company down in Manam Khayel, and we did events here and workshops and Christmas markets, and Niamh was always opening the space up for us to just be ourselves and be together. I got married and had my bachelorette party here. I wrote a book and had my book signing here. I had a baby and brought him to Aaliya's when he was just a few months old. He loved it. Then he started walking here. I gave talks here. Geez, I did so much here. I wrote a lot of stories. I met Netflix here when they first came to town. Before there was no Netflix, they came here. I would always have my meetings here, so that happened. I met Rafi and Nada here, and they introduced me to something called Spill the Ink. So I got to perform my spoken word poetry here. I got to hear the shakers every time I was on the microphone. I have conquered my fears, one of which is being on a microphone. I played the ukulele here in front of a group of people that look like you. Oh gosh, I don't know if this is appropriate, but I did do some pumping. I was breastfeeding, and I did some pumping back there. And Aaliya, it is really my home. I have moved in here. I would bring my own coffee sometimes that I would brew here. I brought everyone I know. I played tawla here with my friends. I taught all of my foreign friends that came to visit. I taught them how to play tawla here. I don't know. There's so many memories. What else? I took a small workshop with Asha's here. I took a small workshop with her here last year, and I met a great friend back here, and it was in a point in my life where I didn't think that I could make friends anymore. So that was really cool. I made friends in Aaliya's. Oh man, we made this really cool viral video in the revolution. We didn't know it was viral, but we created it here in Aaliya's, me and my friends. We got together and we wrote about the Constitution. I know, it seems lame, but we wrote about the Constitution, and we taught everybody about what it means, what our Constitution does for us if it were allowed to. So we did that here. I remember August 4th, I came rushing down here to make sure Niamh was okay and to make sure that Aaliya still stood, and it did stand, and it was cleaned up by everybody here. And then during the war, I talked to Niamh consistently to see if she was open. Oh my God, I remember once we had a electricity crisis, and I came to Aaliya's because Niamh said, we have electricity, come and charge your phones and charge your laptops. So we came here to do that because we didn't have any generators or any electricity during that time. So we've been through a lot, and those are just my stories, but I'm sure that every single person here has those stories as well. Different versions, but the same kind of family. And I have countless conversations here. We were just having one outside. All kinds of conversations with all kinds of people. Aaliya's is safe, inclusive. It's a place where I really felt like I could be myself, and that never changed. Some spaces tend to change and you don't feel like you fit in anymore. Never. Aaliya's always felt like it was home. and a place where I could be included no matter what. I guess I would just raise a glass and a thank you to everything you've given me, and I hope you come back in one way or another. But no matter what, we're gonna miss you. It's been a good decade. Cheers to Aaliya's. Thank you, Niamh. Thank you, William. Thank you, the staff and Aaliya's who are always here for us. Cheers. I would like to now hand the mic over to Michael.
I think that's good. And if people can hear me, it's good. So, okay, great. All right, good evening, everybody. I'm Michael, or as many people here call me Brother Michael. We'll talk about that in a minute, because that's never how I introduce myself. The other night, I walked in here yesterday, and there was jazz. And there's never jazz on a Thursday, it's usually on a Friday, but here it was on a Thursday. And I ran into someone that I've been working with for the last few months in a shelter response. I work with migrant domestic workers, with minority refugees, and she and I have been collaborating very closely. And she said to me, "Are you here for the jazz? Hi, Michael, are you here for the jazz?" And I wasn't. I was not here for the jazz. I hadn't come here for the food. The jazz is good. The jazz is very good. I didn't know there was jazz, but I didn't come here for it. It was just happening, and it was wonderful. And I didn't come here for the food. Last week, I had a great burger, and the person sitting next to me did not have a great burger. And, those things happen. But I didn't come here for the food. And I didn't come here for the drinks either, right? I'm a Jesuit, which means I don't really have a lot of money, and so I usually get an almaza or whatever somebody else gives me. And, an almaza is an almaza in every bar. So I didn't come here for that either. But I did come here, and it took me. I mean, it stopped me in my tracks. I was like, no, I didn't come for the jazz. So I was trying to figure out, well, why did I come here? Why have I been coming here every other night for basically my entire time here in Beirut? Right? And I'm new to Beirut. I've been here for about 2 years. But I had come here to see William, and to see Maria, and to run into Jim and Lisa, and to see Charlie on his last wine night, and to see all the people that I'm seeing in front of me now, right? Will, when he asked me to talk tonight, asked me to basically describe Aaliya's as the greatest bar in the world. And I don't know if it's the greatest bar in the world, right? I don't know. I don't know what makes a bar great. But it is certainly the bar in this world that means absolutely the most to me, right? This is the most meaningful bar in my life. So that's pretty good. I want to set the record straight about something. William introduces me to everybody as Brother Michael, which is kind of funny because I'm not a brother. I am a Jesuit, which for those of you who don't know what that means, it means I'm part of a Roman Catholic religious order. I'm kind of like a guy nun, is maybe the easiest way to think about this. And someday I might be a priest, but who knows, right? That's not now. But William introduces me as Brother Michael. And one of the best ways to think about Aaliya's, I think, is looking at the name Brother Michael as a tracer die. Right? When you're trying to find cancer in a body or figure out where some river's gone wrong, you put a die into the flow and you see where it goes. And for me, in the work that I do in NGOs, in activist spaces, with migrant workers, in church spaces also, I never introduce myself as Brother Michael. But hundreds of people know me as Brother Michael. And they are writers, and they are artists, and they are political thinkers, and they're migrant workers, and they're cricket players, and they're bar staff, and they're everybody in these many different worlds who all know me by a name that I did not give myself. So Aaliya's was a place that was able to bring together enough of a world to give me a name that is not my own. Naming is not an easy thing, right? It takes a whole world to name you. And that happened here. right? It's kind of annoying to me because some people get mad at me when I introduce myself in a religious way, right? But that's what happened. Aaliya's had enough power, enough kind of cultural standing to be able to be a place that gave me a name. And that's remarkable. That's truly remarkable. So, as much as it annoys me that hundreds of people that I don't know me in a way that I never would have introduced myself, it shows me what I love about Aaliya's, is that it has made a world out of many worlds. It has made a place for many different people to come together, and it's given me a new name. So thank you, William. I think one of the things, I'll close this way, discovering that I've come to a bar not for the drinks, the food, the jazz, or anything else, right, means that I must be coming here for the people, despite the fact that the jazz is great and the wine is also very good. It means I must be coming here for the people. And I think there'd be a pithy way to say, if we're coming here for the people, that's, when the bar closes, that's okay, right? The people are still here. We'll have these relationships. We have these gifts. We have these memories. But that's not true, right? We do have the people. We do have these relationships. But when this bar closes, we've lost something, right? And I think it's important to name that as loss. Right? This is a place where that happens, where these people come to see each other, where we get new names, where we have babies and weddings and do things in a place together. And so the warm wood matters, right? The lighting here matters. The comfy seats matter. The fact that you can see Niamh perched here when you walk by matters. And so I'm sorry to be losing this place, to not be losing these people, but to be losing the place where those relationships happened, to be losing a place that gave me a new name. And I'm hoping that it will live in a new way. Thank you. Wael, you're up next.
موبايل المايك ماشي اوكي that's good this is I should have prepared something before coming here to speak because I was asked by William, but I happen to be a procrastinator myself, so I didn't. I guess I'm gonna have to improvise this. First and foremost, this place is full right now. Why the hell is it closing? That's not fair. I guess I'm gonna reflect on my experience with Aaliya's. In 2020, during COVID, a lot of us were depressed, like we were locked down and stuff. And I was working in F&B before, and I was moving my way into journalism, but I was not ready to make the transition from an office job to from F&B to working in an office job, because I really like people and I like interacting with them. So I really wanted to work at Aaliya's actually. So I came here maybe every week after the place was rebuilt after the port explosion, to try to apply for the job. And one time, one of these days, I met Niamh. I didn't know her at all, and she was like, "Yeah, sure, like you can start working here." And yeah, it was such an experience. Niamh, I didn't know William at the time, but Niamh, as a boss, as an owner of the place, is a very unique owner of a place. I think she believes the place is her baby more than it's a profit-driven place. I guess that's why the place is closing. And yeah, I worked here for a bit, and then through Niamh, people at L'Orient Today found out that I was working here, and I started working at L'Orient Today. But even after that, and I stopped working here. Even after that, I still came to the bar very often. Why is it the case? Now this is psychoanalysis for me. It's because it's a very cozy bar. I love the people. I love the space. You don't feel that you're in a profit-driven place. Like you come here, People are friendly. You meet other people. You can walk around. Yeah, and I came here to the live music, wine tasting. The place had the really nice events. I never danced because I'm a shy dancer. Like the tango nights, not for me, but I'm sure they were lovely for other people. And then, if this was not meaningful enough, one day, Ronnie Chatah invites me to be on his podcast in a live event. And he had referred to me as the shyest guest he's had on his podcast. I don't know why. I still don't know to this day. But this happened. And I was like, Ronnie, since I'm the shyest guy, why don't you have me on your podcast? And then he did. And yeah, what have you done indeed? Like, and then after that, when I did the episode with Ronnie, I realized how much, and the place really helped because I'm comfortable with the place. It really helped me connect with the audience, and this is where I felt it. Some of the family members who were here felt it. Ronnie felt it that like I could do a podcast someday, and later on, for some reason, I started doing the podcast here, which was very lovely. I don't think I've processed this place closing. It really means a lot to me. I will really miss it, like all of us will. Not will, like you. This bad joke. But yes, what can I say? I wish Niamh was here with us to see the closing of her own place and Williams. I owe a lot to this place. I will really miss it. Yeah. Thank you so much to everyone who came here on the closing night. And yeah, after me, I guess it's going to be someone who's actually prepared a speech, unlike me, Ronnie Chatah. Thank you so much, guys.
ما في كرسي. Yeah, shorter for me. نزلها شوي زيادة. Is this something I can carry? It's much better. Thank you. Thank you. Actually, you know what? No. Test. I think it was Monday. I found out officially that Aaliya's was closing. So I called William out of the blue. Some things don't change. What's that? Karaoke? I called William out of the blue and I told him he needs to talk. And the first thing he said, only if you talk first. And I said, fine, but you have to talk last. He said, fine, talk for some 30 minutes. And I said, no, this is not an episode. So I've kept it at 10. I hope that's fine. Good stories are all about timing and location, and a bit of time travel. Some 2 decades ago, I began what I was better known for in my prime, a walking tour with a name kept very simple, Walk Beirut. To avoid the standard questions like, ما في bus? Or انتو يلي بتسوقوا على البسكليت? Or as the years went by, ليه ما عندكم segways? وليه ما عندكم app? I insisted on walking. With very limited technology, the only way, in my opinion, to see the city right. There is a missing sense when you commute by car. You get it a bit more by scooter, but on foot you feel it. Those roots to our layered past. Then, of course, the July 2006 war brought that idea to a halt. And that difficult stretch of time, from assassinations to watching a post-Syrian occupation movement die, through street battles waged in May 2008, All of that shaped who I am today. I'm a proud product of March 14, 2005, and my tour was a tribute to the most interesting of characters of that era, Samir Asir, a Lebanese citizen entirely by accident, a Syrian mother, a Palestinian father, with a French passport, who was at linguistic ease in both French and Arabic, a journalist at An-Nahar, and a coffee connoisseur in Hamra, a professor, a historian, young, dynamic, and politically charged, and complicated, the identity and type of personality I prefer most. Killed in broad daylight. I happen to be not too far away from the car bombing that took his life. Mind you, there's no smartphones back then, no social media to instantly know what happened. And I'd only met him once, at a bygone cafe in a place called the Prague in Hamra. I can still see him at the door, proud of his flag-honoring scarf and the mantle he was carrying, independence. Days later, he was taken, and his mind is missing sorely from an intelligentsia lacking ever since. Fast forward, and by the summer of 2008, things looked slightly better. That word I've grown to despise myself, stability, meant at least a few years ahead of getting it right, to a degree. And that is when I really discovered Beirut, through my own eyes at first, later through the passion and curiosity of thousands of guests that joined me, both Lebanese and foreigner, all types from diaspora generations detached to up-and-coming journalists inspired by Robert Fisk and his craft. And I don't remember when exactly, but I know for sure I met Niamh on the tour in early 2009. And perhaps 2 years later, I stumbled upon William Dobson. I was really in love with my old walking tour. Now, for those of you that know, I'll skip the reasons why I stopped the tour abruptly in late 2013. But I spent 5 years after without setting foot in this country. And despite material comfort wherever I roamed, I was unhappy with any location but here. My heart, and I assume all of our hearts, despite tragic pain and tormenting pressure, beats better in Beirut. In that stretch of time and self-imposed exile, I had heard about Aaliya's books, a tribute to a character from a Rabia Alameddin book, A Woman and Her Treasure. Maria Jabbour is the reason why it's called Aaliya's Books, William's wife. A cafe curtained by bookshelves and literature, and from afar, online, I saw photos of a social place that reminded me mostly of Hamra, except in Gemmayzeh, but most importantly, cosmopolitan. And Hamra's better days were long fading. Ashrafi was picking up where Ross Beirut left behind. I was at Torino Express, its opening night in the winter of 2004. The first of a string of bars turning this neighborhood into a nightlife destination. Inspired better by alcohol and too drunk to comment, there's somewhere online a Dutch article of me carrying a gin and tonic and a hot dog with spilled mustard on my shirt. Now you can get away with that when you're 23, not at 43. And 20 years later, here I am in an older Gemmayzeh, still searching for its youth. But unlike William, I'm sober. And all of us are marking a sad closure, yet cherishing a unique passage of time. I had already started my podcast, and like all of us navigating through Corona by Zoom, I managed to rebuild my old walking tour audience, albeit remotely. And a few months into October 17's uprising, I had adjusted to a new life of interviewing, commentary, and opinion writing. That period is my fondest memory of Aaliya's. Buzzing with politics, chairs packed with journalists, covering what looked like, at least for a moment, a brighter future ahead. Martyr Square was breathing. Gemmayzeh was alive, and Aaliya's was celebrating nearly every night. Who would have guessed all that would happen thereafter? Now, there is agony in the personal sense. We all know degrees of it. And then there is collective shared trauma. I was lucky, like many of us, to not be within the vicinity of the August 4, 2020 blast. And I know none of us have recovered. I think, against Beirut's fame for resurgence, that this is a permanently open wound that will never turn into a familiar scar. The city's spirit and a bit of its soul died that day. Aaliya's had to shut its doors for a few months. But when they reopened, all was uncertain. Like a very slow slide into the abyss, what was joy in 2019 had turned to despair. In that tunnel, somehow, William made sure to share his charm and flash some light towards me. He ambushed me. Better, he offered me a chance to bring what I used to do, a packed crowd, a live audience, eager to learn about our place in history, into the coziness and comfort of this unique space. And I did just that. Live episodes on a weekly basis, bringing personalities to sit down and open up, from politicians to artists, entrepreneurs, and authors. Highlights for me include a famed documentarian named George Azar, listening to a pen's voice behind De Niro's game, Rawi Haj, and of course the injuries of a more recent loss with photojournalist Christina Assi and her bond with the late Aissam Abdullah. And I kept recording live episodes until this past summer, as war took over once more. And how eloquent, perhaps, that it was a war photographer named Patrick Bez who sat with me last. Despite the year-long battle between Hezbollah and Israel that we are just emerging from, Aaliya has managed to pull through and see the same regime that took Samir Asir's life and parked its ammonium nitrate just down the street, that killed hundreds of Lebanese and thousands of Syrians, finally exit our lives. Good riddance to Bashar. Timing and location. And now for the present. Every story worth sharing and every tale worth telling begins with an introduction, a solid one, a neatly trimmed middle, and a daring conclusion leaving the audience wanting more. A way of permanency. With shared love in this room tonight, I hope, William, whatever you do next brings you the joy Aaliya's brought to us. Beirut is toasting you tonight, as are its storytellers that brought you to this city. To Niamh, to William, and the Aaliya's community, until next time, good night.
Can you hear me? I think in an ideal world, it wouldn't be me standing here tonight and speaking. It would be Niamh, whose commitment to Aaliya's, often to the detriment of her own life, is what, along with the extraordinary staff for whom no words can do sufficient justice, has kept it going when all around us was falling apart. And yet, at the same time, of course, in an ideal world, Aaliya's wouldn't be closing. But in the words of Nelly Furtado, all good things must come to an end. At some point along the journey, I remember coming across an old message that a friend had sent me back in 2013, 3 years before we opened our doors. I'd mentioned to him that I wanted to open a bookshop in Beirut. William, it read, you've had some pretty awful ideas in the past. I think this one might be your worst. And yet here we are 8 years later, and I worked out the other day that Aaliya's has been a part of my life for over 20% of it, around 3,000 days, a period of time that has encapsulated the very best of them and, of course, the very worst. It's a period of time in which I met Maria, now my long-suffering wife, and a period of time in which I lost my father. It's a period of time that has seen great moments of hope, perhaps most notably, as referenced by young Ronald, the Thawra in 2019, or recent events in Syria, but also great moments of despair. And I don't know where to begin on those. But even in those moments of despair, Aaliya's always remained a sanctuary, a community and a collection of the strangest, most eccentric and interesting people that I've been lucky enough to have met in perhaps the strangest, most eccentric and interesting city which I've been lucky enough to have been able to call home. I moved to this city in the aftermath of reading Zaina El-Khalil's book, Beirut, I Love You, an extension of a blog she had written of her experiences during the 2006 war. I'd picked up a copy while doing one of many unpaid internships at various literary agencies and publishers in London, when and where, despite my protestations, I'd seemingly be deemed unsuitable for gainful employment. On moving here, I discovered that she'd followed it up with an exhibition of art entitled, But Beirut, Why Don't You Love Me Back? A sentiment that I think, at various points, we've all shared. But if there's one thing of which I'm sure, amidst all the chaos and the turmoil, in its own unique way, Beirut has loved me, and more importantly, loved Aaliya's books. Every day, from its fundament, an extension of a drunken conversation with Niamh, quite incongruously, over haggis and whiskey at a Burns night supper on the top floor of the Phoenicia, to what I like to describe as my martini period, in which the plans were scribbled on the back of paper napkins, to 8 extraordinary years, and to tonight, the grand finale. And if there's one more thing that I've been sure of along the way, it's that Aaliya's books have shaped me far, far more than I've shaped it. And for that, I'll always be truly grateful. So before we raise a toast one last time to wonderful times and to new beginnings, I wanted to read a poem that has meant a great deal to me along the journey. It's called The City by K.P. Kafafi. And while its message might seem one of despair, for me it is in fact one of tremendous hope, and one that captures a powerful truth that I've come to understand. That wherever life may take us, some places will remain with us for eternity and beyond. You said, I'll go to another land, I'll go to another sea, another city will be found, a better one than this. My every effort is condemned by fate, and my heart is, like a corpse, buried. How long will my mind remain in this wasteland? Wherever I turn my eyes, wherever I may look, I see the black ruins of my life here, where I spent so many years and wasted them. You will not find another land. You will not find another sea. This city will always pursue you. You will walk the same streets, grow old in the same neighborhoods, turn gray in the same houses. You will always end up in this city. Don't hope for things elsewhere. There is no ship for you. There is no road. As you have wasted your life here in this small corner, you have destroyed it in the whole world. To Aaliya's. Nadia, you can turn your music on now.